This video is made possible by our sponsors, AJA. We'd like to thank AJA for all their support and tell you to go to aja.com for all your production and post-production needs. Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com, or of course, follow us on Twitter at filmmaker_u. Every week, we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by casting director Theo Park, whose work includes Ted Lasso, The Rings of Power, and Cuban Fury, just to name a few. Welcome to the show, Theo.
Hello.
I guess, can you take me through, because I've never worked with a casting director myself, so like, how do you get involved with the production, and when do you start looking for people, or do you have a catalog of people that you start with that you're like sort of building up as you watch shows and see theater and stuff?
Yeah, I used to be an agent. So an agent would represent a list of clients. And I did that for 5 years, and I thought, oh, this isn't quite for me. And so I jumped ship and went to casting, which is basically the opposite. So instead of selling actors, you're buying them. But we are just individuals who have to search a whole host. We don't have our own actors that we represent. We have to get to know all of them, and build up a database in our heads of all the actors out there.
Well, and so like for something like Ted Lasso, because I think about like Beard, Ted, those and a couple others are actually writers who just sort of transitioned into the show. So in that case, do they come to you and say like, oh, we're going to be doing those parts, or do they, is that sort of something that's told to you ahead of time? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So when they first came to me with the pilot episode of season 1, I was told that, Jason was playing Ted and Brendan was playing Beard, but that every other role was open and that I was to cast every other role. Yeah.
Interesting. So when you I think about someone like Keeley, because if I remember correctly when I was doing my research, Keeley is based on one of the writers roughly. One of the there's certain elements from the Keeley's background that they've taken from one of the writers. And so I was wondering, do the writers give any input into that, or do you just take the scripts? And
we certainly do get creative input from the writers, but it all comes via Jason. So Jason has a very strong idea of the characters. I'm not entirely sure where the role of Keeley came from his mind or the rest of the writers team, but yeah, certainly they do have references, and they may tell me and help me along the way. Yes.
I got into sound designing at a point when things were just developing. I was really fascinated by the idea that dialogue, effects, and music were all components of the soundtrack to a film, which had never occurred to me before. What gets me excited is coming up with sound ideas that do match picture, but also is not just the equivalent of what you're seeing on screen. I'm Eugene Garrity, and this is my course on sound design.
So when you're looking at the script, I mean, you're going to have a conversation obviously with Jason and the showrunners and what have you. But when you're looking at the scripts, are you making notes, or are you just taking what Jason's saying to you? Like, are you making notes about where these characters are going through the season, that type of thing?
Yeah, so it always starts with the script. I'm sent the script. I get I try and get an idea of the characters from that script, and I will come up with my own ideas. But then after a conversation about perhaps where the roles are going, I'm just thinking back to episode 1, season 1. That really fleshes it out, and then I can really think about other ideas for it. Yeah, so it starts with the script, but then you've got to have a conversation with the creatives to see where those roles will go in future episodes that you have not yet written, and not that I have not yet read, because they have not yet been written.
So then how do you take into account things like when you're looking for actors, how do you take into account things like, I think about Nate. He starts off as like sort of this meek and mild, nervous guy, or and then he becomes the villain in season 2, and now we're in the process of redeeming him. So like you have to know that they're gonna, like, in a sense, their character arc's gonna go there, and that the actor can handle it. So
Yes. Well,
you
can I tell
get,
you the truth? I had no idea about
oh,
Nate
interesting.
Stark. No, I don't even think they did. Well, if they did, the creatives, they certainly didn't tell me.
Yeah.
I knew about his arc for season 1, so I knew that he would be a very meek, mild character, but that he would eventually become coach. But I didn't know about the flip in season 2. I wondered when they came up with that idea, because they certainly didn't tell me in the inception, the conception stages. But what's really great is that we really do try and cast actors who can do it all, because it's really important that they all have range. And even in the smaller roles, we need to see talent and range. And we were just really fortunate that Nick Mohammed wanted to do it. And God, how brilliant is he at showing a flip side that no one's ever seen in him before.
No, the whole cast is phenomenal. That's what's so interesting, is like, I'm thinking about, even if I'm not mistaken, like Danny and Isaac, or the guys who play Danny and Isaac, are actual football players, or who have played football and then moved into acting. And so there's like little things like that. Did you take those into account when?
Yes, definitely. When we were casting the team, it was imperative that the actors that we chose had proper football skills. For someone like Jamie Tart, he didn't necessarily have to be an amazing footballer in real life. We just had to find someone really decent and funny. And but I think Phil Dunster can play a bit. I know, I don't think he is one of the better players in the ensemble, but he can play a bit. And there's that amazing scene in is it season 2 where he actually does hit from the other side of the field. He hits that, and that was a fluke, but he actually did do that, which is kind of incredible.
So are you involved through, I guess you would be, through all the seasons, because we have Zava in season 3.
Yeah.
So when you're looking for someone, do you also, you probably have to take into account the fact that you now have this ensemble, and you're about to bring someone in who could disturb the chemistry in that. So like, how do you look for something like that? Like Zava, for example, is that on purpose? Like, let's get someone who's gonna disrupt it to get that in the actors? Or?
Absolutely. And Jason always called this character Zava the agitator. He wasn't a baddie, he certainly wasn't a goodie, but he messed shit up slightly for everybody. But the character was based on the real life footballers Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So that was a really clear reference, and very helpful, but also quite terrifying, because I thought we'd never find him. We needed someone with amazing presence, very tall, athletic, with comedy, and preferably an Eastern European accent. And I thought, oh my goodness, we're never going to find him. But when Max Osinski did his tape for us, I kind of wanted to do a mic drop. I thought, wow, we found him. So relieved. Because he's brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he's great. Same with like there's a couple of characters who I'm just like, oh, I love these characters, even though they're like initially small. Like I think about Nate's girlfriend, because they just released it. Like she started off as just like the hostess, and has now moved up.
Well, this is it. That's just another example of getting the best actors in even the small roles, because as we go on, Jason keeps wanting to bring them back, which is fabulous. And we know, and we feel confident that they can do it.
So when you do that, like, because like you said, you don't know where they're going to go, like what do you have that, like, they're going to read maybe sides or see stuff from the show, but do they do anything outside of that so you can see their scope in the audition?
No. So they just have to trust me and my team that we're presenting them with the the best the most decent actors, and we really do try. I think it's really important. Also with day players, if they're only coming in for one day, those type of roles, they don't have any time to prepare. They don't have any rehearsal. They're literally just flipped around in a day. You're like, go on, there you go, do your thing and go. So those sort of roles, even though they are technically small roles, you really do need really decent actors in those roles, because you can't have someone, especially because of time, you just can't have someone who's going to crumble or need a lot of help with direction. You just want a really brilliant actor who's going to hit the ground running, even especially in the small roles. So yeah, we try our best.
Because you've probably seen like a ton of like tapes have been sent to you, you've seen live performances. Like, what do you look for in the various performances? Like, what were you looking for, when you're looking? Well, Roy Kent, we know, was a writer who switched over and he submitted a tape. But like, what do you look for when you're looking for a specific character? Like, let's say Roy Kent.
Well, with Roy Kent, that was kind of a bit of an about turn, because we did see Roy Kent was based on the Irish footballer Roy Keane.
Yeah.
So I think we taped some really brilliant Irish actors and some other sort of comedy actors as well. We always try to audition many different types, because there are many different voices in the room. Obviously Jason has the final say, but we always try to present as many different types as possible, because it's a conversation, isn't it? But when it came to Roy Kent, Brett is just terrific, isn't he? And then he did his tape, and that was that. But it's not quite how I saw the role in the beginning, because I was thinking, Irish Roy Keane. But then that they're brilliant at that. They're this is what they'll do is they'll fall in love with an actor and they'll change the part for them. And that's really exciting as a casting director, that you have those creatives who like actors and like what they can do. They changed the role for Jamie Tart. They changed because he was written originally. When we were casting it, the arrogant star player was going to be called Danny Rojas, and he was a South American player. But we couldn't quite find him. During that search, we found Cristo Fernandez, who did the most amazing tape and happens to be an ex-pro footballer. And they said, okay, well, he's not right for the arrogant star player, but how about we change it and we make him the new kid on the block who comes in later, the little puppy dog who everyone falls in love with. And then they met Phil Dunster, who wasn't South American, and they said, well, he should be our star player, but he could just play it British. So that's so exciting, because it's very organic, and they're open to changing. The creatives on this show are open to changing and creating storylines around the actors that they meet.
Oh, interesting. So I gotta say, I love Danny Rojas.
Oh, he's totally brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah. He was basically, my wife was like, as soon as she saw him, she was just like, should have married him. And I was like, come on. So.
Oh.
Now, was there a particular role or that was difficult to cast that you had trouble with?
Rebecca was actually quite difficult to cast, because at the beginning, I think possibly studio aspirations meant that we were looking sort of more namey, and we sort of talked for weeks about sort of more starry comedy actresses, and we had a few people pass. We sent scripts and they just passed, and then we opened it up and we started auditioning, and then it wasn't until quite late that Hannah Waddingham came in. He was actually, I can't claim responsibility for Hannah, because she was actually suggested by Brendan, I think. She should try, and then that was it. She just totally nailed it. But that was hard, because yeah, we were doing it for quite a long time, and sort of it wasn't until Hannah came in that it totally made sense. Yeah.
Did they alter her role for her? Because I think about
No.
in season 1 she sings karaoke, and then season 2 there's
Oh
Christmas.
yes, no, you're right. Yes, okay. So no, they didn't alter the role, but they added some because they realized that
She's
she
got
could
such
sing.
an amazing voice and is great at
Yeah,
singing.
they want to make the most of it. Yeah. Very
Was
clever.
there other things that people brought that they're like, oh, we have to add this to the character, like skill sets that?
Yeah, well, Nate in the episode that's just come out, you know, and we see Nate and his family home. The violin that was added because Nick Mohammed can play the violin. I'm trying to think if there were. I'm sure, definitely, because they love those little nuggets. The writers and Jason, and I'm trying to think. Oh, you've put me on the spot. But anyway, yeah, Nick and his violin.
Well, I have one last question for you. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
Oh, this might be really disappointing, but I absolutely love The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I actually have to stop watching it because if I do, I will just get sucked in, and the time is just gone.
Do you do the offshoots too, like New York and New Jersey?
Oh, Gordon, I don't have time, but if I did, I would. I'd be doing all of it.
I think we were gonna say Love Island for a second because of Jamie Tart going to their version of Love Island.
I did love Love Island. There was a time when I was very into Love Island. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Oh, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you very much for having me.
Great to meet you. And that's it for this week, everyone. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com or, of course, on Twitter at filmmaker_you. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching. This video is made possible by our sponsors, AJA. We'd like to thank AJA for all their support and tell you to go to aja.com for all your production and post-production needs.